A lot of times I hear this phrase, oh, people aren't respecting my boundaries. And they mean one of two things usually when they say that. Either that when the boundary was done, somebody pushed back, or I asked for a direct request and they didn't do what I wanted them to do. I don't know whether or not that has anything to do with respect. What I do know is when people don't get the thing that they're wanting in that moment, it creates a lot of urgency in people.
Welcome to Sleeping Around, where we offer a peek behind the curtain of modern sex and relationship therapy and research, bringing you insights and conversations otherwise reserved for the therapy room. I'm your host, Elena Joy, a Master's of Counseling Psychology student, content creator, and lifelong sex and relationship nerd. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sleeping Around. Today's episode, this is tough for me to say because a lot of the conversations that I've had on this show have been personally impactful for me, like beyond interest sake, beyond learning for my own future practice, beyond trying to make interesting episodes for all of you. But personally, these conversations have an impact on me. This one might take the cake. We are talking about boundaries, and that sounds like a simple, potentially singular conversation, and it is so not as we go through this episode. Today, I am talking with Juliane Taylor-Shore. She is an LMFT, an LPC, an SEP, a therapist, an author, a teacher, who is creating spaces where people can move into more self-compassion, self-trust, empowerment, and integrity. She has a background in neurobiology and followed the neuroscience to the obvious conclusion that we are really feeling and meaning-making beings driven by interdependence. So she wrote the book, Setting Boundaries That Stick: How Neurobiology Can Help You Rewire Your Brain to Feel Safe, Connected, and Empowered. And boy, do we get into it in this episode. We talk about what a boundary really is, how to set one effectively, and the literal step-by-step process to implement the practice of boundary setting into our lives and relationships. You're also going to want to stick around for the Patreon extended cut of this one. Juliane has a podcast. It's called the Why Does My Partner podcast. And so I got a bunch of why does my partner questions from all of you, and we answer a bunch of them over in the Patreon extended. And as is the rest of this conversation, it was eye-opening. I hope that you enjoy this episode. I hope you take as much away from it as I did. And I wish you happy listening. Can you tell us a little bit about what got you into this work?
Well, let me say this. I got super into neurobiology really early in a career change. So I was an auto mechanic and then I became a therapist.
Okay.
I was turning wrenches during the day and going to school at night. And I found it really confusing that I went to therapy school and nobody told me anything about the brain. It felt weird because I wouldn't work on a brake system if I didn't understand how a brake system worked.
Makes sense.
So I geeked out in neurobiology world. And how I got into boundary work was really accidental. I was trying to help people face difficult realities. Over and over again, all these difficult realities, they kind of ended up in the boundary category. And so I went, oh, wait, this is all one thing. And we can work with our neurobiology, now that we understand that a little bit better, to make boundary setting not easy, but less hard. I'm not one who talks about boundaries in an uncomplex way. I want us to own the complexity of what this means. But all of this work is just about helping people face the realities that are just part of our life. Like, not everything everyone does is going to be okay with me. I don't want to power over control their behavior, but I do want to take care of me. What do I do with that?
Yeah.
That's a boundary question. Oh, there's another one. The truth is, our minds don't see the world the same way. So the things you think and feel when you see a thing happen are going to be different than the things I think and feel. can we be connected through that difference in a way that's protected enough that our brains stay online and functional with each other and responsive rather than reactive? Oh, that's just a reality. Like, brains see the world differently. How do I deal with that? Through the mentalization neural network. So everything I talk about in boundaries is facing some normal thing that's part of reality that lots of people have challenges with. And then using neurobiology, how do we work with our brain? I want to partner with my brain as much as possible. Mm-hmm. So how do I work with my brain as it works? Well, so that it's a little bit less hard, even though it's not going to get any more simple, because it won't, because reality is tough.
Reality is tough. Boundary setting is tough. Boundaries are complicated, like you said. You mention in your book various types of boundaries.
Right.
We hear the word boundary and we think we know. We think we have a pretty simple definition of what a boundary is. Can you talk us through what is a boundary actually? Maybe what is a helpful boundary? And then through some of the types that you go through.
I think of boundaries in 4 categories. Physical. So the edges of my body. How does my body affect others? How do other bodies affect my body? There's the boundary between people. This is what most people think of when they think of a boundary. Oh, when you do this thing that's not okay, here's what I'm going to do to protect myself. Right? So you do have this external boundary for sure. And then there's also psychological boundaries. That's the space where our minds get to be different and we both get to be okay, even though our feelings and thoughts are really different. Psychological boundaries. And then containing boundaries. So that's our boundary between us, where the actions I take in the world stay in line with my relational intentions and my integrity. So what is my value system? Do the things that I do stay in alignment with how I'm wanting to show up in the world? And can we create a boundary internally between me and me to help create a pause and live more in alignment with who we want to be?
Right. And some intentionality.
Right. And then I think of them on a spectrum. So I don't think somebody outside of you has a better map than you do for what a healthy boundary is. Here's the thing. What I think is a healthy boundary for me carries with it my social location, my context, my history, what feels good for my system in the DNA in which I was born. All of that mixes together. And if I told you, you should have the boundary that's healthy for me, that would be me putting my social location onto you and my context onto you and my DNA onto you. That seems silly. It doesn't honor the differences in people's experience. So I actually think of boundaries on a spectrum. One end is more rigid, more firm, right? And the other end is more loose, more porous. So rigid to porous. So we put them on a spectrum, and then you get to decide where on that spectrum would be your home base, and in different contexts in your life, where might you need to move to more porous or more rigid, actually, because that is the healthiest boundary in that moment. So, for example, I am a woman walking down the street, minding my own business, and some dude starts catcalling me. Well, me going really rigid may be the safest option. Not letting any of that in, not answering, nope, no contact. That may be the safest option. But what if, given my history, my context, the situation in the moment, actually taking a little bit of that in and smiling and trying to get out of that situation would be better? Who am I to say what your healthy boundary should be? I'm doing air quotes for those who are listening. It doesn't feel honoring to me of different people's experience in the world for me to say, oh, here's what a healthy boundary is. I think of it more as like, how are you going to be thoughtful about where your home base is and when to move along this spectrum in all of the different boundary categories?
How does someone go about figuring out what their boundaries are in each of these categories?
Well, the first thing would be just to really clearly hold one category at a time. So I wouldn't try to do all 4 of them at a time, just hold one of them. And then my recommendation is actually to spend some time going through experiences wherein setting a boundary in one of these categories or having a better boundary in one of these categories might have been helpful, and really be curious about your own history. What did you see growing up in the culture around you? What are the costs? I'm thinking about somebody I worked with who was dealing with a really, really tough work situation. He was an older gentleman working in tech, and he had a really abusive boss. Because ageism in that context is very real. Setting some really rigid, firm boundary or telling this manager off, if he got fired, it is very possible. He was not wrong. It is very possible he would not be able to find another job. That's a tough situation. He has to then work through, okay, how am I going to add as much protection as I can if staying in this company for the next 5 years until I hit retirement is actually the best move for me and my family? How do I protect me as much as is possible? So rather than having a more firm external boundary, what he did was have a more firm containing boundary and more firm psychological boundary, and went really rigid on the psychological boundary side. Even though at home, his home base was more letting in information. His landing spot, his comfy home base that really aligned with him, was more on the porous end. So when people ask me this, like, oh, how? Well, this is a complex question.
Yeah.
I don't have an exact how, but I do have maps of how to help yourself. And each map that I have aligns with whatever parts of our brain are going to be most involved in each kind of boundary. And so it's a lot of going inside work. And it's a lot of, hey, you could take these steps and you could see how they apply to this situation versus that one and learn something about you as you play with it in different scenarios and get way clearer, both on your own complexity, but also on where maybe your home bases are.
I'm thinking about boundaries and what you mentioned about the difference between a boundary and the desire to control another person. Even in the example you just gave with the man and his boss, if you look at, let's say, social media, you might see people saying, set a rigid boundary. This is the only way, right? Boundaries are this one thing, and a boundary is something where I say this doesn't work for me, and therefore you change your behavior. I think that's the common understanding of what a boundary is.
That is not what I mean.
Right, exactly. So can you say more about the difference between a boundary in the way that you're talking about it, a healthy boundary, a helpful boundary, and a boundary, quote unquote, I'm now doing air quotes.
Yeah.
That is really just a desire to control somebody else disguised in like therapy speak.
So I want us to separate direct request from boundary.
Yep.
Direct request is for when I want someone else to change their behavior. Here's a thing I would like. Would you be willing to do that? Now, if I'm going to do it without moving power over or controlling someone, then what that means is I have to know internally, I have to accept or welcome even the possibility that they're going to tell me no, right? So the direct request would be for somebody else's behavior to shift. I know I might hear no to that. That's okay. If I do, then if the thing really is not okay, I might do a boundary setting, which has a ton to do with what I am going to do in response to the shift or lack of shift. So when I think about I want somebody else to do something, I'm talking about direct request. When I'm talking about I want me to do something to keep myself a little safer, then that's behavior that's in my boundary category. And it's not, ooh, this one's tough for people. but I genuinely mean it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to get the other person to change their behavior.
Wow, that's hard to hear. That's really
I'm not
that's hard
saying
to take in.
they won't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will. I guess I'm in a space of deep acceptance that I have influence and no control.
Mm.
And it's possible when I do a thing that my kid will change her behavior, or my husband will change his behavior, or my friend will change their behavior, or coworker, or whatever. It's possible. And I'm putting influence out in the space all the time. Me breathing influences the space. Mm-hmm. Everything I'm saying right now is influencing the space between everyone's ears who are listening to me. And how much you're taking this in is not up to me. So I can put out the thing and then I wait and see. So it's a lot about letting go. And I think we live in a world where we were told we were supposed to be able to get people to do stuff.
Letting go sounds like the antithesis to everything we've been fed about boundaries.
Right. I think of boundaries as a deep letting go and grief process.
Absolutely. How does one communicate a boundary, let's say in the external category? Let's say you're in a relationship and you'd like to communicate a boundary that is not a direct request.
You've already done the direct request, probably.
Okay, can you give us an example of what that would look like? Like maybe you start with a direct request and then move to a boundary so we can get a clearer understanding of the difference?
So let's say I am in a relationship with someone and they are, I don't know, throw out a thing.
I asked my audience if they had why do my partner questions for you.
Yes.
And one of the ones that came up was, why do they threaten to leave when we argue?
Perfect. This is grand. Okay, so let's say threatening to leave when we argue is in my not okay category. Mm-hmm. This is not going well for me. I really feel clear about this. I have requested, maybe even in a meta way, in a neutral time, not during the argument, but we were at dinner and we were having a good time. And I said, you know what, babe? I've been noticing that sometimes when we argue and it feels really hard or scary for both of us, you threaten to leave, that you tell me you're not going to stay in this relationship. That's really sitting hard with me. Would it be possible to take that particular thing off the table? Unless, of course, it's actually going to happen. Of course, I want to hear about that if that's really what's going on. And they say yes, but the next fight, it happens again. And the next fight, it happens again. And I've requested maybe 2 or 3 times. It ain't changing. Okay, now I'm going to walk away from that situation. I'm going to do everything I'm about to say. I'm going to do it away, in between me and me, away from that situation. I cannot do this in the moment. Boundary work, when done well, takes a lot of prep work. Once you get really good at it, you can do that prep in your mind within a 2 or 3 minute period, but it takes a while of practice. So I really recommend people walk away from the situation and get centered and wonder about 6 things. So Step 1, the thing I want to face in step 1 is the fact that my brain sees current pain very differently than faraway pain. If I have a pain of some kind, of hurt of some kind, a fear of some kind, that's about to happen right now in the next 2 to 3 seconds, my brain is going to mark that as bigger than a pain that would happen 2 weeks from now, even if it wasn't. You cannot change that. It's just biology. And here's the thing. The pain of not saying something, not dealing with this problem, ultimately is probably bigger. Having this threat happen all the time in arguments and what that does to you psychologically is probably bigger than the pain you would have at setting the boundary in the now. Mm-hmm. However, because they are both painful, your brain will code the one right now as please avoid that. And so you're going to need a really big oomphy why that you're going to set a boundary because you're about to do something where you're going to need to override that pain avoidance strategy that your brain is naturally going to have. So you need an oomphy reason. So I might be, let's say you were in my office, I'm working with you and I'm going, well, What is so important about this partner not doing that, not threatening to leave? What is really hard for you when they do that?
Mm-hmm.
If they stopped doing that, what would it get you? If you could protect yourself when they did this, what would that give you? These are the kinds of questions I would start asking. Can you find a really good reason that you're going to do a thing that's going to be really hard inside the moment?
I'm in real time trying to wrap my head around the idea that the boundary I'm setting is a choice and a behavior that I am going to take.
That is right.
Right? It's like, okay, we've gotten through the direct request. Here's the impact that has on me. I'm directly requesting that you remove that piece from our arguments.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Yep. For whatever reason, they can't, they won't. I don't know, but they ain't doing it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so to then need to take responsibility for my own kind of safety or internal protection. I think I'm waiting to hear what you're going to offer as an example of what an internal boundary would even look like in that moment, because I don't know.
Right. Because here's the not okay thing that's going to happen, right? And what are you going to do to take care of yourself in that moment? And the thing is, there's 1,000 right answers. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the right answer for each person is going to be. It may be that for person A, the thing to do is to say aloud, oh, I will not continue to have this conversation when you do that thing. For a different person, it may be a hand gesture and walking out of the room. For another person, it might be that you stay in the situation, but you disengage emotionally. I do not know what the right thing is going to be for you. However, what I would say in this scenario, let's come up with an example. Oh, I've decided that I'm not going to be able to continue. Why am I not going to be able to continue? I actually think it's disrespectful for me to pretend that this kind of dialogue is honoring of our relationship. For me, staying in this when you threaten to leave is like I'm living in a lie. Because I'm saying that I can continue to pretend that this is going okay or this is a fruitful conversation at this point. And I actually don't pretend that, and I don't think that. So in order not to betray me and in order not to betray the relationship I have, can you feel the oomph behind my big why? I'm going to set a boundary. Now, if we already have a pattern going, it's very, very handy to have at some point a meta conversation away from the situation that states what the boundary will be in the moment. So let's say for this person, what they decide is, I'm probably not even going to be able to talk in that moment and stay in my integrity. I'm going to be too hot. What I'm going to do is do a symbol of kindness towards my partner, and I will leave the room. And they've decided a tiny heart. Tiny heart.
The thumb and pointer finger.
They've decided tiny heart, and they've decided to put the tiny heart up once, twice, 3 times, and walk.
You're saying this is in a meta conversation. This is communicated to the partner ahead of time when you're not in a conflict situation.
That's correct. So I've tried 3 direct requests. None of them have worked. By worked, I mean we stopped doing that threat thing. Okay. So now I'm going to say, sweetheart, this really is not working for me. It's okay with me that we get into conflict. It's okay with me to talk about tons of stuff with you and that's really hard between us that we don't agree on. What's not okay with me is to stay in the conversation and pretend like it's going well or okay when you threaten to leave the relationship. So when that happens, I'm going to show you my tiny heart fingers 3 times so you don't miss that that's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to say anything at this point. I hope that you will let me walk away. And and I'll come back to the conversation at another moment. Notice I put it in language that went, here's what's in my okayness category. Here's what's in my not okayness category. And here's what I'm going to do when the not okay thing happens. Notice that's only step 2.
I was thinking it. I'm like, you said 6 steps?
There are 6 steps.
You also,
right.
Hey, you also warned us that there is prep, that there's
prep, right? So all of this is happening on the back end. I've already done all my 6 steps, right? On the back end. What's the next thing? The next thing is I'm going to make some guesses about what my partner might do when I do this thing. I do my tiny heart fingers and walk. What are they going to do? That's step 3. And you might notice they might do, it could be any one of these 5 behaviors. Then I do step 3 5 times because it could be a variety of things. I want to prep myself because here's what I want. I want us to in this moment, I want us to take a gentle and firm U-turn, i.e. Turn away from what your partner's doing or saying and turn back towards yourself. Has there ever been a time when someone set a boundary with you and then you pushed back? My guess is yes. Why wouldn't we expect that from somebody else? A lot of times I hear this phrase, people aren't respecting my boundaries. And they mean one of 2 things usually when they say that. Either that when the boundary was done, somebody pushed back, or I asked for a direct request and they didn't do what I wanted them to do. I don't know whether or not that has anything to do with respect. What I do know is when people don't get the thing that they're wanting in that moment, it creates a lot of urgency in people. And so it's not weird. It's just not weird for somebody to have a big reaction when they don't get what they want. And so I'm just accepting that and preparing for it. So step 3 and 4 and 5 are all about preparing for the inevitable. I have a favorite boundary book, and I got to tell you, it's not mine. It's a children's book called Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus by Mo Willems. And it is the sweetest little book. And you open the book and the driver of the bus is engaging with child reading this book and says, hey, kid, can you watch the bus? By the way, don't let the pigeon drive the bus. And then you turn the page and the pigeon's like, hey, can I drive the bus? And page after page is a boundary push and another one and another one and another one. And what I want to do is help people understand that it's actually not weird for the other guy to be the pigeon. Prepare for it. Know it's going to happen. Accept reality with me. Does it suck? Yeah, it sucks. If they do it a lot, are you probably going to leave? Yeah, eventually. I don't want us to assume that I won't be the pigeon if you set a boundary with me, or that you won't be the pigeon if I set a boundary with you. We're going to be the pigeon because that's what we do. Because we have a seeking system in low parts in our brain that's going for what we want. And that's not going to turn off because somebody said, no, you're not going to get that. I guess I want to take a little bit of the blame out, not the accountability, but I want us to take a little bit of the blame out and go, ooh, could we just say, hey, this is probably going to happen and prepare for that?
As I listen to you talk about the pigeon and how normal it is for somebody to push back, I'm almost feeling this softening toward this hypothetical other partner. Yeah. And I think that's so helpful. It's like you're opening a little bit of warmth, compassion, that's openness to the other person's response, even if their response is difficult or painful or not what we want, not what we're trying to gain out of the situation or the change that we're trying to make. It's like, it's almost letting go of the I'm doing this to control their behavior.
Right. I'm doing this to honor whether or not I want to pretend that this conversation is helpful. Do I want to live in that lie or not? I've decided no, and so I will not. But not because I'm saying whether or not you should or shouldn't. I'm taking the judgment out of it. I'm answering the behavior. I'm not going to back off my boundary. But I'm also taking the judgment out of why you're doing what you're doing. I love how you're saying that. It's like a little softening, a little opening, which especially in our close relationships can be so helpful. Step 3 is I guess at 1 or 2 or 3 potential answers my partner might have. And then step 4, I imagine what is that behavior going to be like? And what is my emotional response to their behavior? With each potential behavior, there's a potential internal emotional response in me. So we're going to link those together, right? So step 3, what are they going to do? Step 4, what am I going to feel when they do what they do? Step 5, create a soothing plan for the feelings that will happen in you. Step 6, how are you going to restate your initial boundary? Now, I've done all that prep work, and so when I have this conversation, it looks like this. Hey, sweetie, I've asked a few times for this thing when we're in a hard space for you to threaten the relationship, tell me that you're going to leave, to stop, and I've noticed it hasn't been able to happen. I am going to take care of myself in these situations, and I've decided the best way for me to do that is show you a tiny heart when it happens and walk. And that's for me to let you know I still love you, and I'm going to walk letting you know I can't pretend this is going well for me. And I don't want to engage and lie to me or you about that. And after that, 20 minutes or so, I'll come and check back in with you. They say, oh, what a great plan. Go ahead and do that. Yeah, right. But let's imagine they did for this moment. And so then we're in a thing and they do the thing. I have to take care of myself in that moment. I remember, Jules, do you lie? Do you lie to them? Do you honor this relationship or not? I remember my big why. I put up my tiny heart and I walk. Now what they do is they start following me down the hallway. In me, both fear and rage fill my body. But don't worry, because I already have a soothing plan. Oh, and I put my hand on my heart and I remember the words that are part of my soothing plan, kindness and courage. And I turn around and I show the tiny heart again and I say, I am serious about this. I am now going to close the bathroom door and I will not come out for 20 minutes. And then I walk through the bathroom door and I lock it and I sit in there for 20 minutes. And luckily I've brought my phone with me, so I'm not totally bored and I play my Wordle. And I'm with me. I'm taking care of me in that moment and seeing, hey, what do I really want out of that initial conversation? I'm really interested in how we could leave space for tons of accountability with a lot less punishment between each other.
These steps that you're outlining, how do we make sure that we're taking these steps, right? I'm going to show the tiny heart and then I'm going to walk away. How do we differentiate between I'm doing this as a self-care practice versus I'm doing this because you did the thing I don't like and I am now punishing you for it. Yes.
Right. That is a question between you and you. It is not something I can answer.
Okay.
I think every single one of us, you have to decide, is it in your value system to punish someone else? And if the answer to that is no, I'm not talking about whether or not anyone else is punishing anyone else. I'm talking about between you and you. If the answer to that is no, then you ask yourself, would you do this, tiny heart, and walk away to take care of the relationship, to take care of yourself? Or would you be doing it to punish them or manipulate them? I can't tell you which version of that is. Be honest with yourself about where your values really are, and be honest with yourself about if you do the thing you're planning on doing when the not okay thing happens, is it in alignment with your value system? If it is, then do it. And take care of yourself, steps 3, 4, 5, so that you can stick with it. Because you got to take care of you really well inside that pushback. Or several different things could happen. You could reassert the boundary, but in a punishing way if you don't take care of yourself. You could fold or collapse your boundary in some way if you don't take care of yourself. You could beat yourself up or think that you're doing something wrong because you did say something was not okay for you. And then you end up in the shame pit. Like, I want people to take care of themselves and know, like, do you get how precious you are? how much you deserve protection? Do you get it? This is why I think boundaries are actually an act of self-worth. It is self-worth in action, and it is respect for others in action.
Can you tell us a bit about, in your office work, what are some of the common, or in your workshops or any of the work that you do, what are some of the common boundary setting scenarios or issues or concerns that people bring to you?
For sure, in the interpersonal relationships, really close friends, romantic relationships. I work with poly folks a lot. So inside of polypods and open dynamics, there's lots and lots of boundary work to be done. It's kind of all the time.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's one, how do you not take it personally when you and your partner are in a thing?
Oh.
That's, like, this is psychological boundary work. Can I hold a difference between my partner's feelings and my feelings and not take it personally when he has a hard feeling or thought? Let's take this scenario. I am 6 feet tall. My husband's like 5'9", 5'10". He knew this when we got married. Now let's say, right? Let's say I walk out of the bedroom and I've got on an outfit for the thing we're going to, and I love it. I'm so excited. And I've got my wedge heels on. And he goes, could you change your shoes? He made a direct request, right? Which I could say yes or no to, right? That's not a boundary. He's not making a boundary. He is making a direct request. This is part is so important. Okay, now, psychologically, if I don't have a space where his difference is okay, it's very possible I could say, he thinks I'm a bad dresser, or he thinks I'm too tall for him, or there's something wrong with my body. I could take it really personally and ouch. Or I could go really rigid and like judge him and what's wrong with him that he's asking this of me. All of which is not how I would like to show up in my marriage. But if I have my psychological boundary in place, the psychological boundary is made up of 2 things. Discernment. Not everything somebody else thinks is true and about you. It may be true for them, but it may not be true for you. And even when it has you in the sentence, it may not actually be about you. They may be expressing something about them. So when I say discernment, what I mean is, can you take in what is true and about you and keep out anything that is not true and not about you? And that's information, but it's not information about you. It's information about the other person.
Okay.
Right. So, okay, that gives me some information about something going on with him. He doesn't usually have a thing when I wear heels. What on earth is going on right now? Right? So because minds are different and because protection matters when it comes to the difference between reactivity and responsiveness, I want to add as much protection as I can because it allows me to be more responsive than reactive. The discernment part protects my mind from his mind. And the second thing, listening with acceptance, protects his mind from mine. So when I think about listening with acceptance, I think about it like this. What if he were just becoming himself through time? And every thought and feeling that's happening over there, every direct request that comes out of his mouth, not behaviors, I'm talking more about like just the thinking and feeling and beingness of people. What if that was him becoming himself through time? And the most respectful thing I could do is bear witness to that without needing it to be different. Not only am I not going to take that in, because discernment-wise, I'm like, is it true that I'm tall? Is it true that that's a problem? Well, it's true that I'm tall, but it's not true that that's a problem, so that's going to stay over there, and that is absolutely not about me. I'm not sure what's going on there, but something's going on with him. I don't want to move into judgment. I want to be curious about what is going on over there. That this thing is happening in this moment. What is going on with you? And I want my curiosity to match the level of how connected and close I would like to be with you. So here's another thing, for example, that's happened to me a lot in my life. It's not that weird for someone that I don't know, like I might be paying for gas at a convenience store or something, for that person to look at me and go, wow, you're so tall. Is it hard to get a boyfriend? This has happened to me 30 times in my life, at least. It's so weird, but there we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a limited amount of curiosity about why that person said that to me because I don't want a lot of closeness with them. But I do want a lot of closeness with my husband. So my curiosity is going to match my desired closeness.
Okay.
And listening with acceptance where I say, maybe something hard is going on over there, but that is you becoming through time. And I respect that, and I listen to it, and I witness it, and I have curiosity about it. But I do not have to change it for me to be okay. So when I do my psychological boundary work, and there's a whole exercise where we work with the mentalization neural network and find an image that really works for you and yada, yada. So if you want more details about that, reading the book is a great way in. And what happens in that kind of scenario is, he says the thing. Ooh, he makes the face and does the breath and, ooh, can you change your shoes? And maybe on my side of that direct request, on my side of my psychological boundary, I love my outfit and I do not want to change it. And so I say, oh, sweetie, I put a lot of time putting this together and I really would not like to. Also, what's going on?
Yeah.
Or I say, let's say I'm not attached to my outfit. Sure, I don't care what shoes I wear tonight. I am wondering, though, is something up?
Mm-hmm.
So I can answer that direct request either way, whatever way is in line for me. I'm super interested in helping people show up in authenticity and responsiveness. So all of this is about helping your brain in the subcortical part of your brain feel safe enough to not move into self-defense, but to feel protected enough by you. Oh, you're in charge of your own protection, adults everywhere. It sucks, but true.
That's going to take practice.
I'm protecting, my brain trusts me to protect myself enough that kind of moment is now in my okayness category and I don't have a difficult response to it. And once you practice your boundary for about 2 to 3 years, it becomes really there for you without a lot of conscious awareness. Yes, I said 2 to 3 years. I'm so sorry about that news. That's complicated news, isn't it?
Look, life is long. 2 to 3 years in order to live in authenticity. I'll take it.
Isn't that worth it?
Yeah.
Okay, so three weeks you hone a neural network, but for a state to move into trait form, so trait means it's mostly there for you unless something really went wrong, shit hit the fan or something like that. But most of the time, it'll just be there for you. State to trait takes 2, 3, even 4 years for some folks. And then honing a neural network takes about 3 weeks. So it only takes 3 weeks to get the boundary in a solid enough space it really serves you well. But 2 to 3 years of bringing it up consciously for it to become habit.
Oh, wow.
So like right now, there's a Jell-O wall in between you and me. Always. Because it's just constantly there for me. But I had to practice a long time to help it be there.
I can see how this is applicable to every scenario that I could pose to you.
It is. We haven't even talked about containing boundary yet. Wait, how do you put a pause between what you feel and what you do so that your behavior is in alignment with both your authenticity and your value system?
Yes. So physical boundary, the space between my body and the world, external boundary. This is where it's relational, it's I'm not making a direct request, I'm creating a boundary between you and me to protect myself. Psychological boundary, this is what we just talked about, where there's discernment and then there's active, curious, accepting listening? Listening with acceptance.
Listening with acceptance.
And that is within, it's like between me and me, it happens internally, and then may or may not impact my response or my behavior. And then the fourth, containing.
And that's how we put a pause between what we feel and what we do. And the really hard thing about this is that the feeling part of your brain is the source of your motivation. We don't actually want our feelings to go away. Antonio Damasio's work is who I'm leaning into when I say this. You are not a thinking being that sometimes feels. You are a feeling being that sometimes thinks. Let's just embrace that. So it's not about turning down the feelings. And if I have no pause between what I feel and what I do, then if I feel mad and the blood rushes into my hands, I could hurl something against a wall without even thinking about it, right? Or if there's no pause between what I feel and what I do, I could move into a shame feeling and all of a sudden collapse and try to get you to take care of me even though I just hurt you.
Yes.
Or if I'm in a space where, oh man, defense-wise in my family of origin, shutting down and saying nothing was the way to take care of yourself. It's not in my integrity, but gosh, I feel afraid and I go blank and I'm not saying anything and then I haven't talked to you for 3 days, other than like logistics. Is that really in my integrity? This is about honoring the fact that the subcortical speeds from whence the feelings come is much faster than the moral reasoning part of your brain. So the prefrontal cortex, which does the complex moral reasoning value system stuff, works a lot slower than the emotional feel-do stuff. I can't change that. However, what we can do is use the regulating capacity of compassion and the speed of gesture. Gesture thinking happens in the basal ganglia. Fancy word for automatic emotional meaning of behavior in the subcortical system. So let's say this. If I give you this, you know what it means, right? If I give you this, you know what it means. So I just did a heart hands and I did a thumbs up. I don't have to explain to you in words what that means for you to know what that means. Your basal ganglia did that for you. It happened at such great speed, you did not actually have to stop and think about it in any way. That would be true if I put my hand up for a high five or a fist bump too. All those, they have emotional meanings to us. Well, what I decided to do was help people utilize that to work at the same speed as the emotional center to remind you of compassion that comes from the top part of your brain.
Okay.
So basically we find a gesture that means compassion to you. And then we hook 2 key value words. One is about who you are, and the other is about how you want to show up in a relationship. What's your relational intention between you and the world? So one value word is with self, one value word is with others. And so you hook all those 3 together. And again, practice for 3 weeks because it makes a neural network. And then practice for 2 to 3 years. And it'll start showing up automatically for you. There are moments where at this point, so mine is hand to heart, and my word for myself is courage, and my word for others is kindness. So I have practiced hand to heart, kindness, courage so many times that now there are moments where I feel the weight of my hand or the warmth of my hand, and those words float up to my conscious awareness without me thinking about it. And then it reminds me, slow down. How do you really want to show up here, Jules?
Yeah.
So that's the containing boundary, is putting a pause between what you feel and what you do so the doing part stays in your value system and integrity. And isn't that really helpful, like in every romantic relationship you've ever had?
Yes. There is an instant reminder of compassion, kindness.
Yeah,
I love the idea of adding in a word of who do I want to be.
And so there are exercises in the book, and I lead people in their workshops, and we tussle with it and find, what are your words going to be, and how are they going to serve you, so that when you're doing boundaries, you're taking care of yourself really well, you're taking care of other people really well.
I knew that this conversation was going to complicate the idea of boundaries. I had no idea just how deep this was going to go, and I thank you and I appreciate your time and you sharing all of this wisdom with us.
Oh my gosh, you are so welcome. I feel so grateful you asked me to be here.
I mean,
this is so lovely.
Thanks for coming. We are now going to jump over into the Patreon exclusive extended version where
Great.
I am going to ask Juliane some more why does my partner questions. Some audience submitted why does my partner questions. So hop on over there if you guys want to hear the extended version. Where can people find you?
Sure. JulianeTaylorShore.com is my website, and you can find all the different workshops. A lot of them are for anybody, therapist or not. And if you're a therapist or a coach and you want to train, you can find out more. You can get the book, Setting Boundaries That Stick, which is the name of the book I wrote about boundaries. And it's not actually a long read. It's actually a kind of, I tried to make it accessible. It does have neurobiology in it, but not so complex that it's unfollowable. So you can find out more there. And come do work with me.
Thanks for listening. You can also access all of our extended cut episodes with bonus content from every single guest over on Patreon at patreon.com/AlenaJoy. That's patreon.com/ALAYNAJoy. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at SleepingAroundPod for updates, teasers, episode discussions, and more. This episode was produced by Elena Joy and Danae Fender and edited by Corey Mosqueda. See you next time back here on the couch.